The Symbolism of the Fool, Tarot card. The Fool is a card in the Tarot, often given the number 0 and regarded as the most important card in the pack. W.B. Yeats, in his Phases of the Moon, noted that of the 3 important roles, the Fool, the Hunchback, the Tarot Hermit, and the Saint, the Tarot Hanged Man, the Fool is at the farthest limits of spirituality, almost not of this earth. The root of the word fool is from the Latin follis, which means that which contains air or breath, filled with the breath of life, spiritual energy. The origins of the word buffoon may be similar, originating from the old Italian buffare, meaning to puff out one's cheeks, again the breath of life, spirit. In other words, the fool is divine. A fool is thus a god in human form. Chuang Tzu, story, The Empty Boat. Simple is she without. To all appearances she is a fool. Her steps leave no trace. She has no power. She achieves nothing. She has no reputation. She judges no one. No one judges her. Such is the perfect woman. Her boat is empty. The problems with the fool. But as we can see from all the cards and the poem above, the fool has his or her head in the clouds and sees no dangers. Everything smells of roses. The sun is always shining. The grass is always green. The sky is always blue as far as they are concerned. Everything is perfect as it is. And indeed, if everyone was a fool and left no trace, perfect contentment, a life of simplicity, innocence and love, the world would be as they see it. But not everyone is a fool, and as such they have to be looked after, prevented from hurting themselves, watched and cared for, as if they were children. Aldous Huxley. Wherever sheltered conditions are provided for, the percentage of them will be high. Realizing the importance of this extreme, over-evolved and scarcely viable human being, all civilizations should provide in one way or another for its protection. Except they don't, and certainly didn't, and maybe they should. Recognizing the fools. In the early Middle Ages, the concept of the fool as a uniquely gifted individual was well understood. Metello, for example, the court fool to Isabella d'Este, the Marchioness of Mantua, was classified as mad. His name, derived from the Italian word matto, means mad. But being simple and entirely open to spiritual input is hardly madness, and as we saw in the video for the Hermit, if their gifts are recognised and their pronouncements captured, they often throw a new light on intractable problems. They become guileless, innocent messengers of hidden truths. And although fools were horrendously persecuted in Europe, other cultures did not lose sight of the value of fools. Berthold Seemann, 1862. an account of a government mission to the Fiji Islands in the years 1860 to 61. The Fijians are very fond of dressing themselves in fantastic, often very ridiculous costume, and in nearly every large assembly there are buffoons or court fools attached to the chief's establishment. See Engel, 1876. Musical Myths and Facts, Volume 2. Moreau states that in Persia, the princes, governors of provinces, etc., as well as the king, have a band of booties or buffoons in their pay, who are looked upon as a necessary part of Persian state. So if we summarize so far, fools can be recognized because they are otherworldly, unconcerned with anything material, uninterested in the concepts of wealth or possessions, and they also occasionally show signs of unfathomable genius. Only the pure of heart are fools. They are almost incapable of performing evil acts. They are also often very childlike, with considerable childlike innocence, gullibility, and a charming naivety. Dogs love them, and so do children. François Fenelon. In the world, when people call anyone simple, they generally mean a foolish, ignorant, credulous person. But real simplicity, so far from being foolish, is almost sublime. All men like and admire it, are conscious of sinning against it, observe it in others, and know what it involves, and yet they cannot precisely define it. I should say simplicity is an uprightness of soul, which prevents self-consciousness. The story of Joseph of Cupertino. Joseph of Cupertino was an Italian Franciscan friar who was born on the 17th of June 1603 and died on 18th of September 1663. Cupertino is where the monastery is that he eventually led his life. It is based near Naples. The Roman Catholic Online Encyclopedia. Frequently, he would be raised from his feet and remain suspended in the air. Besides, he would at times hear heavenly music. Since such occurrences in public caused much admiration and also disturbance in a community, Joseph, for 35 years, was not allowed to attend choir, go to the common refectory, walk in procession, or say Mass in church, but was ordered to remain in his room, where a private chapel was prepared for him. Paramahansa Yogananda, the autobiography of a yoga. Among levitating saints of the Christian world was the 17th century St. Joseph of Cupertino. His feats received ample attestation from eyewitnesses. St. Joseph exhibited a worldly absent-mindedness that was really a divine recollectedness. His monastery brothers would not permit him to serve at the common table, lest he ascend to the ceiling with the crockery. The saint, indeed, was uniquely disqualified for earthly duties by his inability to remain for any long period on the earth. The Fool and the Enneagram. The Enneagram Type 7 is a less spiritual form of the Fool. A head in the clouds, optimist, cheery, good to be around, but a person who refuses to admit the dark side exists. They see the glass as half full, and are smiling, full of jokes, jolly, and are well liked. And just like the Fool, they ignore all danger. They pretend it doesn't exist, because they don't want to believe it exists. And despite the fact their dog is either barking at them in warning or tearing their clothes trying to get their attention, they stride on regardless, ignoring things because they don't want to believe there is evil that needs to be tackled. They are initially good to be around, and indeed are an excellent balance to their very serious wings, the 6s and 8s, but at some point danger and evil does have to be faced, and the number 7 has to use his wings, the 2 more serious and focused numbers on either side. The worst case scenario is when he has no wings. An out of control number 7 is a liability, constantly arguing that there's nothing wrong and to stop whittling. Constantly escaping from responsibility, they plunge headfirst into various forms of escapism. The need for tolerance. There is one essential thing to remember about all fools. They will appear insane, but must be treated with tolerance and understanding. Beethoven was insane. Even people like John Wesley were classified as insane. And so was George Fox, founder of the Quakers. William James. George Fox, quoted in the Varieties of Religious Experience. "It was winter, but the word of the Lord was like fire in me. So I put off my shoes and walked on about a mile, and as soon as I was within the city, the word of the Lord came to me. So I went up and down the streets, crying with a loud voice. It being market day, I went into the marketplace, and to and fro in the several parts of it, and made stands, crying as before. And no one laid hands on me." And of course, no one would, because this was Britain. They probably ignored him or offered him a warm cup of tea to help him calm down. You cannot think out of the box if you were in it. So those who have scrambled out or never been in it are actually very useful. New perspectives offer new solutions. They challenge us to think about our beliefs. The Yeats Book of Master Lee. The Kuye Mountains stand on a chain of islands, where the yellow river enters the sea. Upon the mountains there lives a divine man, who inhales the wind and drinks the dew. His mind is like a bottomless spring. His body is like a virgin's. He knows neither intimacy nor love, yet immortals and sages serve him. Seeing beyond the mundane. A very small number of the tarot cards show the Fool wearing a belt with 12 parts, representing the zodiac. As Welz says, this belt encircles the body of a cosmogonic person of extreme importance. In fact, this Fool represents all that is beyond the sphere of the intelligible, hence the infinite outside the finite, the absolute enclosing the relative. In other words, it is only via this type of Fool that we will ever know the true nature of reality. They are a metaphysical key to an otherwise locked door. Fool on the Hill, the Beatles. Day after day, alone on a hill, the man with the foolish grin is keeping perfectly still. But nobody wants to know him. They can see that he's just a fool, and he never gives an answer. But the fool on the hill sees the sun going down, and the eyes in his head see the world spinning round. Well on the way, head in a cloud, the man of 1,000 voices talking perfectly loud, but nobody ever hears him, or the sound he appears to make, and he never seems to notice. But the fool on the hill sees the sun going down, and the eyes in his head see the world spinning round. Nobody seems to like him. They can tell what he wants to do, and he never shows his feelings. But the fool on the hill sees the sun going down, and the eyes in his head see the world spinning round. Oh, oh, round and round and round. And he never listens to them. He knows that they're the fools. They don't like him. The fool on the hill sees the sun going down, and the eyes in his head see the world spinning round.